Hi there, I'm Joel Gershman. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you 3 key strategies for how to get your e-commerce or SaaS business to 100K plus per month, as well as 3 problems that stop many businesses from achieving it. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you access to our growth system template. It's going to help you apply some of these ideas to your business immediately. So stick around, it'll be well worth your time. Before we jump into the strategy though, you may be wondering why I'm qualified to teach on this topic. I'm a business coach, entrepreneur, and co-founder of Digital Autopilot, a leading digital marketing agency. I'm also the co-author of the #1 Amazon business bestseller, The Mindful Entrepreneur, which charts the true story of how a colleague and I helped Howard Finger, the owner of a struggling SaaS business, to really regain control and drive exceptional growth. And I'm not saying that I have the cure for every business issue on the planet, but I know that the lessons I've learned have been literally life-changing for hundreds of e-commerce and SaaS business owners and other businesses too, and I'm really excited to share them with you. What exactly are we going to cover? Well, first of all, we need to get clear on the 3 drivers that underpin all growth. Then we're going to expose the 3 common marketing mistakes that people often make, and we're going to replace them with 3 counterintuitive but really effective strategies for tapping into each of those growth drivers. Let's get into it. First up, let's get clear on a fundamental idea underpinning all marketing. There are 3 core drivers of growth. Number 1, your ability to generate leads or traffic to your site. 2, you need to convert that traffic into sales. And 3, you need to grow customer value over time. And customer value is really a function of your retention rate, if you have a subscription model, your average value per sale, and the number of sales per customer per year. Now, how exactly do you tap into each of those growth drivers? Well, the answer is you need to guide customers along a journey. I like to call this your customer journey. And it's helpful to think of this journey as a 6-phase, partly unconscious mental process that customers go through when making purchase decisions. In other words, you start by reaching a wide range of prospects to build awareness of your product. That's the first step. But then you need to spark desire for your offering. They can't just be aware of it, right? Once they desire your offering, you can then guide prospects through your sales process by helping them evaluate your offering to build trust. If they don't trust you, they're not taking that next step. But of course, the intention of building trust is that some of them will ultimately make a commitment to purchase. And once they've become a customer, that's not the end of the game. You then want those customers to return for more and ultimately become your loyal advocates, referring you to others. Now, that's the basic journey that your prospects ideally go through. I say ideally because, of course, many businesses don't proactively and deliberately guide prospects through this journey. There are holes, so to speak, in their process, meaning that many prospects end up literally falling through the gaps at various stages. And if you're paying money for advertising to bring in new leads, but many of them are just falling through the holes in the journey, you're wasting money. And of course, you're limiting your growth potential. The reality is that to build a growing e-com or SaaS business, you need to guide prospects through the customer journey proactively and deliberately. And if you can do that, you can rapidly accelerate your growth. Now, to help you do that, I'm going to expose 3 common marketing mistakes, and we'll replace them with 3 counterintuitive but effective strategies. Let's start with the first growth driver, which is lead generation. Now, the problem for many businesses is that they're just not generating as many leads as they'd like. Part of the reason is that they're making a common mistake. And the mistake is that they dive in and begin implementing a range of lead generation strategies like email campaigns and Google ads and SEO and social media and so on, which is why I often advise people to do the exact opposite. Stop implementing lead generation strategies. Now, at first glance, that sounds ridiculous, right? Because of course, if you want to grow, you ultimately need to generate lead generation strategies. to implement lead generation strategies. But before you do that, this is the key. You need to be clear on your overall business strategy first. That's the critical first step. You see, many e-com and SaaS businesses begin implementation without really thinking about their underlying business strategy, like who their target market is and how they're going to differentiate themselves over their competition. Those are foundational strategic questions. And though it's much easier to ignore this strategic step, it's also a recipe for limited results. Take the classic case of Michael Dell, founder of Dell Computers. As a teenager, he famously became the most successful paper delivery boy in Chicago's history. How? Well, his strategy was simple but powerful. Rather than take a random door-to-door approach, which had approximately a 10% success rate at best, he looked up all the newlywed couples in the births, deaths, and marriages register, and he only visited their houses. His success rate was astronomical because many of them had just moved into a new home, and that's exactly the kind of person who's in the market for a newspaper subscription. How did he do it? Answer, he didn't start with a practical strategy like knocking on doors. He started with deliberate, well-considered business strategy. He identified who his target market was, and only then did he begin implementation. If you want to achieve real growth, you'll also need to start by defining your overall business strategy, including and especially who your target customers are, which means identifying their demographic and even psychological characteristics so you can work out which marketing channels will best reach and engage them in order to build awareness. And once you've done that, you'll be ready to fire up your lead generation strategies. Now, let's explore the second growth driver, which is lead conversion. Now, many e-commerce and SaaS businesses find that they're just not converting leads and traffic at a high enough rate. And part of the reason is that they make the mistake of focusing on the hot leads, the ones who are ready to buy, and they ignore the rest. Now, of course, the hot leads are important, but did you know that e-commerce conversion rates, for example, are 2 to 3% on average and lower on mobile phones? But if you focus just on those leads, what about the other 97% of visitors who came to your website yet didn't purchase or contact you? Now, many businesses label them as bad leads and let them disappear back into the virtual ether, which means they'll simply leave your website and you'll have no way of contacting them or following them up down the track. But this is an enormous missed opportunity, right? Because many of them are not actually bad leads. They're just not ready to buy today. Statistically speaking, and you may have heard this before, it usually takes approximately 7 contacts with a business before a prospect feels comfortable enough to do business with them. And that's why smart businesses are using a different strategy. They move prospects through the next stage in the customer journey by enabling them to evaluate their business to build trust. Human nature is such that we don't typically commit to something unless we have some evidence that the benefits of taking action outweigh the risks. And this is where the idea of content marketing comes in. I'm sure you've heard of this before. You distribute highly relevant, useful content or experiences for free before you ask them to buy. That way, you give customers an opportunity to genuinely assess your credibility and build trust. And there are so many different ways to do this. One powerful example is the product demonstration. Now, this can range from a live demonstration for some SaaS products, for example, through to a really short 1 to 2 minute video demonstrating how a product is used, for example, for e-commerce stores. Either way, if you can demonstrate tangibly, practically, so people can see how your product solves a particular problem or problems for your prospects, you're much more likely to build trust and increase the chances of winning them over as a customer. Let's have a look at the final growth driver, which is about increasing the value of your customer relationships. How do you grow that value? And the problem here is that some businesses find it really hard to motivate their customers to buy more and more often. One of the reasons is that they're making a key mistake. And that is that once they've made the sale and delivered their product, they see that as the finish line. So all of their energy goes back to the start of the process to bring in more new leads and customers. Now, this is an enormous missed opportunity. In fact, I'd go as far as to say, if you don't have a deliberate and systematic strategy to upsell or cross-sell additional relevant products and services, you should probably stop trying to win new customers and just focus on this. It's much cheaper to sell to an existing customer than it is to go back and try to find a new lead, teach them about your business, and then hopefully convert them into a customer. Now, how do you do this in practice? Well, you need to actively promote additional offerings designed to grow customer relationships. And there are multiple ways to do this. But one especially powerful strategy is to set up a series of automated emails that effectively operate while you sleep without lifting a finger. There are two types that are critical to growing customer value. One is the post-purchase email sequence, and the other is the win-back or re-engagement email sequence. The post-purchase email sequence is designed for the first-time purchaser, but it can actually be used with great effect for repeat purchases with a little bit of tweaking. And the idea is to send a series of automated emails designed to check in with customers following a purchase, thank them, set expectations, encourage them to buy more, and ultimately review or promote your products, right, to build advocacy. If you have complementary products to the one they purchased, this is a great way to promote them. An ideal post-purchase email sequence comprises 5 emails. And obviously you can customize this to your business, to your heart's content. But here's an example of one sequence. An email 1 comes immediately after the purchase, thanking them for the purchase. Then there's an email that might go out pre-arrival. This is, for example, if you're an e-commerce store delivering a product. Obviously, if you're a SaaS business, you might not have a pre-arrival email. Then there's a post-arrival email. Email 4 is a recommendation email. This is where you recommend a complementary product or service. And then finally, there's a replenishment email. And again, this is obviously for products that can be or is relevant to replenish them over time. The second key email sequence is the win-back, or sometimes called re-engagement sequence. This sequence is designed for customers who haven't purchased in a certain period. It could be 30 days, 60 days. Some businesses, it could be much longer, like 6 months or more. The good news is that you can actually win back a percentage of these customers with a well-crafted re-engagement email sequence. Remember, it's far cheaper to re-engage old customers than it is to find and nurture new ones. So if you don't have one of these in place, it's well worth implementing. Now, what does a re-engagement sequence look like? Well, again, here's a 5 email sample that you can customize for your business. Email 1 is about saying hello, reminding them that you exist. Email 2 is an offer. You offer an incentive to re-engage with the business. Email 3 is you ask for their feedback. Email 4 is a last chance email before you clean your list. And email 5 is ultimately an unsubscribe email because you don't want people ultimately on your email list that aren't engaging at all. And there you have it. 3 drivers of growth: generate leads, convert leads, and increase customer value. But as we said, we need to ensure that we don't fall into a number of traps. First of all, the trap of driving the wrong traffic, right? Get clear on your target market first. 2, we need to ensure that we're not just focusing on the hot leads, but nurturing and educating the other 97%. And finally, we need to ensure that we're not just focusing on winning new customers, but on growing existing customers. And while these are just some of the necessary strategies to build $1 million business, if you start here, you'll be well on your way. Remember to type the word system below to get the growth system template to help you map out your own growth strategy. Good luck.